off stream, that would kind of spoil the point.
Well, yeah, the whole point of this is it's all fresh.
Right.
And I can go, wow, that's amazing. That bit there, you're amazing.
Nice, nice. Okay, okay. Today, what I'm working on is your favorite program, the one that
Oh, you're going to put my face up there again, aren't you?
let's try it. Let's try it. Okay, so we're working on the program that does this. Oh, I don't have where did I put? Hold on. Get log dash all type Brett Martin. Oh, that's it. The winky on this is
I'm slightly offended that it doesn't say martin.net, to be perfectly honest. You're spoiling my
you
brand.
want your full name?
my, my 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 name that I was given at birth.
There it is. That's how I hit up on this. I actually probably need get log dash s. S. Oops, Martin. Okay, so now I'm looking for your picture. All right, sorry, I don't have your picture, so I'm not gonna do your picture. What I have is a program that it does something. Okay, it does something that's very Christmassy. Do I have a local collector running? Ooh, that's we need to check terminal. Docker Compose. Yep, I do have a local collector running. And I have the Docker Compose stuff for that in this repo now, so that I can do this vendor neutral style and show Jaeger, which I did yesterday, and it was actually kind of useful because, oh my gosh, you'll see. Just looking at a trace in Jaeger versus honeycomb, it's like, oh, I can see why people are frustrated by this. Right, so this program does something, and it does something very Christmassy. And
but it's not Christmas.
exactly. It's not Christmas anymore. Customer service would love to share this to people. The real fun of this is that I can use any picture, including like a picture of Martin, and I can get that into a heat map. Let's see.
Oh, we should do this for every stream. We should take a picture of the person who's on the stream at the time.
Oh, like a guest? That's true.
Yeah.
We could look up a picture of them ahead of time.
No. I was literally meaning,
oh, like
write something that takes a screenshot from the Zoom.
It's just screenshot and then downsample. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, yes, here's our thing. I made a board. It's called Fancy Graphs. And if we click on it and we run it oh, there we go. Okay, I just sent this trace that made this heat map and this cute tree. And if we click on it, we can see that the trace, no, I want the trace. Oh, I have to click into the graph from the board. And on the graph, I can click a dot and get into the trace. And the trace is going to have pictures in it of Christmas trees. See?
Yep.
And, okay, this one's all Christmas trees. Often there's ornaments, but this one's we're all Christmas trees. It's random. It's a big bug. Okay. Right, so I want to change this to like not Christmassy stuff. Also, if you hit it in Jaeger.
Is that emojis? Is that emojis for span names?
Oh, Unicode, yes. Yeah. So the span names, I have these like musical systems. So each little picture that I put in here gets a verse of the first day of Christmas honeycomb observability version. And the extra lines that are still in the picture, because the next verse doesn't start until the next Christmas tree, get some random code. Yeah, which is fun because you can put it directly in the code. That's probably in.
I need to change all of my spans in all of my projects to use Unicode emojis as span names.
Do you see my little first marker is that symbol specifically? And somewhere
and that
there's
goes in the
this
span
string
name.
of, oh, here they are. So splat out the characters in this string into an array, and then we randomly select some of those to be in the span names. Yeah. There's a lot of
I've 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 got this idea now that what I want to do is write a collector processor that you put in your processor and that just randomly change all of your span names to emojis.
or add emojis to the span names according to its opinion of them.
Just use Chat GPT to sort of span over like what emoji represents this particular span name.
Yeah, and duration. And you could give it the other characteristics of the span to see whether it likes it.
It's just what represents this span name? No.
I like it. Okay.
It's got an error. It's basically a shot of whiskey.
Also in Jaeger, we can find this trace. And yeah, here's the Christmas trees. It doesn't, you can't do color here, right? In Honeycomb, I can add a field called waterfall color. Oh, maybe not. Oh, there it is, row color.
Oh, that's interesting.
What did it just do? Okay.
It did add all of the
my
things.
computer is not really handling everything that I'm asking it to do right now. Come on. Oh, I lost the row color and it clicked on a bunch of other things while I was clicking. Enter. Okay, got it. Come over here. You can do a browser tab. And then you can color the rows. And see, now the trees are green. And the stars are blue. I mean, I can't really tell it what color to be. I can just tell it, make these different. So it's actually just luck that the trees are green. The small trees are orange.
Well, those are the gold ones that you get in the shops.
Yeah, the sparkly gold Christmas trees. True.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's you plan that, obviously.
The negative is this Honeycomb browser tab is actually running really slow with Zoom and OBS and everything else my computer's doing right now. Docker and Jaeger and the collector and
nothing to do with the sheer amount of spans that you've put in that particular trace at all. No.
Really, it's only a lot of span events. It's only so one thing that you'll notice is this one that if I count spans in Honeycomb, I mean, unless I specify not span events, I find out that this one, so it's only 171 spans, but
the amount of span events.
Yeah, I figured out that I could just take all the extra spans and throw them in as span events, so they'd still be part of the trace, but they're just hanging out being extra up here.
Yeah, well, the problem is that because obviously all of that's rendered.
54 of them.
On that one span, that's just one span that's got those.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't show you the span events for every
events. Like this one, that one's name is Sparkle because it's in there being cute. It's an ornament. Anyway.
Yeah.
You can see that I like this program. But right now it's pretty hard coded to always put Christmas trees and ornaments and stuff. And I want to make it more configurable. So here it's a tiny example, but this is now legacy code because it's a prototype. And now I actually want to release it into the wild so that other people can use it and do stuff with it. So I need to, it's not exactly production, but it's closer. And so I need to change it. I need to refactor it so that these Christmas trees aren't hard-coded, so that people can configure it to do whatever. You can already configure it to send a different heat map, but that's it. So that means I need to refactor it, which would be fun, except I don't have tests. So refactoring is always dangerous, changing the code without tests. And so that leads me to well, what do I do? Just make a small change, run it again, make sure I didn't break anything. That's just boring because it's look at this and see that nothing changed. Boring. I want to look at something and see that something changed. So my plan is to put tracing into this program. I mean, it already has OpenTelemetry set up because it sends spans. That's what it does.
Yep.
But I want it to trace about itself. all of these are in one trace. Let me, yeah, you can see in Jaeger, for instance, that it emitted one trace. I want to add a second trace that doesn't show up in the graphs because it doesn't have the special fields that show up in the graphs. But it traces the program execution.
Yes. So we're using OpenTelemetry because, we're using OpenTelemetry to
Because
generate all this thing. But we
abusing
now need to really
OpenTelemetry.
use OpenTelemetry
Right. Right.
for what it
Right.
was intended to do, not the fun times that you had using it. So one of the questions I've got, I mean, you obviously switched this over to OpenTelemetry, but a lot of the OpenTelemetry libraries are built to start a span based on now, not based on in the future or in the past. Was that a problem you had, or?
Oh, this is why I use Node. One reason I use Node for this program, because the Node libraries are you want to what? All right. So,
of course you can
oh,
override everything. Just don't work out whether it's true or not, because everything is true in JavaScript.
This is JavaScript. You do what you want, not what you're supposed to do. Where's the new program? Open in new tab. So this is my new workflow for stuff like this. I want account group by trace ID. So show me the traces, and also for the insert organization account, I want their max timestamp. Now I had to add timestamp as a derived column, which I find infuriating, but that's okay. I can do that. I can add it as a derived column every time. So group by trace ID, order by timestamp descending. This gives me a graph. Last 10 minutes. Oh, okay, maybe last 3 minutes. All right.
We've been talking for a while.
So we only have one trace. It has this timestamp, and it has these counts, whatever. These are the spans in it. But now I can click into the trace, and I can see that it had. Well, I can see from here. I just hit back now. It's now confused it. Oh, I clicked into the trace. Okay, yeah, there's Christmas trees. Fine, we knew about that. I can see that it has 3,000 spans, and that its timestamp was this large number in units. So,
assuming that's like an epoch or something like that.
But this is the query that I keep going back to. Look, I've even named it. Its name is recent traces. To be like, okay, what did I just do? It's the equivalent of this find traces button in Jaeger.
Okay.
I mean, Jaeger also has this duration thing up here. I don't care. This Jaeger tells me number of spans. I need number of spans, and I need what's the most recent one. So that's how I'm going to iterate. Is by so we've got this one, which is a test. This is did it work? Although they vary because there's randomness. But this is going to be the iteration loop. Right now, only the output trace. It doesn't have any execution tracing. So what I want to change is that it does have execution tracing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the thing about refactoring is to refactor, you want to have tests. If you have good tests, you can refactor to your heart's content. But to write tests for this is not easy. It uses randomness. It uses the current date. It uses a bunch of files on the file system that it loads. I don't know when, but we'll find out. And so it's not testable. To make it testable, I would need to refactor it. See.
This sounds like a bit of a paradox.
Exactly. So, in order to fix that, to get out of that stuck loop, I'm going to use tracing instead of tests for the refactoring here. Tracing isn't going to give me a green-red binary. Yes, no, but it is going to give me something to look at, and better, it gives me something to see change. Because the point of refactoring is that you can't see the change from outside, right? From the customer perspective, from the user perspective, that the program's behavior hasn't changed. But from my perspective as an operator, I do want it to do something different, and I can see that in the trace. because that's what
But it's something you want it to do something specifically different.
Yeah.
Not
So I'm
just
going to look at
everything
each.
different.
So right to start with, I wanted to give me some information at all. So I'm going to go to main. And now I have done this before. And so you don't get to watch me fight through trying to get the SDK started before I started trace.
Disappointed.
Yeah, in a web server, your tracing initialization starts at the SDK and it starts up as it starts up. And you don't really worry about shutting it down because you don't really shut down your web server. That's kind of not on the agenda. I mean, you eventually do, but the world doesn't end if you don't shut the SDK down.
Console tracing is a thing that I don't think there's a huge amount of people doing. So
right. So this is
you're treading relatively new territory.
This is a batch job, or it's a script. But because it's a startup, run, stop, not a keep running, I need to wait for the SDK to start, then run the program, and then wait for it to shut down before I exit, or I'll lose fans. So you don't get to see me troubleshoot that. But now I'm set up to put a trace around main. So my goal is to be like tracer start active span. The span.
Okay, so wrap the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. That didn't work. Ooh, it's just a little responsive. No, I need an arrow key. Thank you. I have to push function to get there. Use keyboard. Function. Oh, that's so painful. We need a comma.
I was going to say, you need a comma outside, don't you, or inside?
The pane, actually, all I have to do is move function, arrow, enter. Alt.
So where's it getting tracer from?
There we go. It's not yet.
Ah.
See how angry it is?
I love that IDEs chose this very, very angry red, and different IDEs go even more angry. Totally. Like if you're using SQL Server integration services, the red on there is the angriest red I have ever seen in my life. It's like it screams at you. The ones in VS Code are just a little bit like, I'm a little bit disappointed.
Okay, well, it still hates me for main. Oh, I'm supposed to, right. So start active span, you always have to pass it a function that accepts the span. And then you have to end the span. My main is asynchronous. It is returning a promise. So I can just say after that promise completes, then I don't care what came out of main because it's nothing. Just end the span. You should have S at that point. Okay, no. Too many parentheses here. Not an get out of my reverse code. I know I need a parenthesis. Let me put it there. Okay.
That's the thing. If it knows you need a parentheses there, then why doesn't it do it for you?
Why does it get in my way? Anyway, it might if I like.
So what we're doing there. So we start the active span. So in JavaScript, when you're using tracers, that's the equivalent of like a using statement to say, I'm going to dispose it at the end. I'm going to start it, but in the context of anything that's in that that function that you've just passed it. So the function is the thing that's running that's part of the active span. Is that right?
Yeah. The painful part is that it has to be a callback. It has to make a new level on the stack in order to track that active span in the OpenTelemetry Context Manager. And it's painful. Yeah, there's some pain in using a callback here, but you have to give it the function and let it add it to the stack. Okay, so we dot then end, and here's another tricky bit. I learned this the hard way. I was getting unhandled promise exception, or whatever the unhandled exception out of Node, and I wasn't getting my root spans because if an exception was thrown, it doesn't call the onFulfilled argument to dot then on a promise. It calls the onRejected argument, which is going to be here. Come on, put the onRejected in. There it is. So onRejected argument here is a function that also needs to end the span. That's if we get an exception. But before I do that, I want to record exception on the span, give it the E, the exception, and then end the span. This puts a span event on it. And then I'm not going to throw the exception again because I want it to continue with its business and shut down the SDK.
Yeah.
So this is the, you make it prettier? Oh yeah, for that. Okay. So this is the spell for wrap the main function in a span from the outside.
Okay.
And then let's J to shut that down. Tab. Here. We're gonna run it here. Run local, send to the local collector. The local collector is sending the honeycomb and local Jaeger. Right, so we run it again. We should get a cow. There's a cow. Now, what I expect to be different, and I love this, this feels like science to me, because every time I run it, I can say what I expect to be different. What I expect to be different is I think there should be an extra span created this time, an extra trace with one span. There it is, one span main, and here's the other one. Look, it made it longer this time. This is random. Here is my, there it is, main. That's it. That's all you get. I haven't added any attributes or anything. It's just, but I can see how long it took. It took 1 second. Felt like longer.
You know what you could do with this?
What?
So you will have the trace ID in your onRejected, won't you?
Yeah. Everywhere in here, I have the trace ID and the span ID.
So in your onRejected and your on fulfilled, you could actually write out a console link that takes you directly to the span.
Yes. Yeah, so what I could do here is either in both of them or as a .then. What does this return? Void. Rude. Function. Return S. So if I return S from each of these, then I can add another .then, and we can take the S and we can print some links.
So you can print console. It'll be localhost 16686 /trace /s.trace ID or something like that. So HTTP localhost 16686 trace, and then the trace ID.
We get that from s.span context.
You want your s.span context inside.
Oh, that's what its thing is. It's just like function over.
Is that trace ID or something?
Okay. Whoops. Stop. Oh, my scrolly thing is also bad. Okay. All right, so we're printing that loud. Okay, so now we expect the same behavior, except we expect the console to print us out a link, and we expect that to go to a trace with one span.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we can run it again.
Just shortcutting the loop, making the feedback loops a little bit quicker.
Right. I can also emit a link to Honeycomb, like our SDK does. If you use the Honeycomb defaulted distribution of the node SDK for OpenTelemetry, you get that stuff. But I don't know how to configure our thing to also to send to a local collector. It's possible. I don't know it off the top of my head.
It's
and also,
relatively easy. Yeah, I mean, it does the OpenTelemetry stuff, the OpenTelemetry environment variables, so we should be able to do it. But
my console doesn't want to make this clickable.
Yeah, mine does. Mine likes it, but
I bet it will in VS Code. Down here. It's probably a setting. Return to for that. Ah, yes, this one's clickable. No. Control click? No. Command click? Yes. Okay, you were right about the URL. There it is.
there we go. That makes things a little bit nicer. I love that REPL cycle of being able to just click from your console straight into that. So,
all right. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now that we have a top level span, now we can bring in auto instrumentation. I'm going to skip the steps of so what I actually did was I won't skip this. Let me show it to you. Just go to opentelemetry.io /registry. This is my friend. If I look at package.json, no, there it is. Package.json. I can see that our our dependencies include OpenTelemetry, blah, 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 PNG.js, which is very particular, and Axios. So I'd love to have tracing for Axios. I go to the registry, I scroll down to the search box, look for Axios. I get nothing. But if I try, still, let me click on the language. If I pick JavaScript and I want instrumentation, then I get this list of stuff. And so I scroll down until something looks useful. This is the file system library. This is useful. And also,
yeah, you're definitely using the file system. So
I'm definitely using the file system, and I would like to know how much. And HTTP instrumentation, so that's the core node library for HTTP. And Axios is using that under the hood. So pretty much if I just bring this HTTP instrumentation, that's just as good as if I had a web client framework. So the trick here is to npmi open I clicked on those things to get these words. Telemetry / instrumentation HTTP. And I'm going to cheat and do FS right now, because those two turn out to be really useful. Now, I already have an SDK set up in tracing because we're using OpenTelemetry, but it has no instrumentations. And we're going to change that.
we're using OpenTelemetry. I mean, there's the AB in that is there's only 2 letters between those 2 words, which is probably intentional in English, maybe.
I'm gonna have to import it in. Wait, can you control? No. Find it. Anticipate. And my scrolling is fine. Now it comes close to finding it. Okay, so to change one thing at a time, approximately, let's run it with HTTP instrumentation and see what we get. And now I'm looking to see if more spans are created underneath my main span. Haha! Check this out.
Cool.
So we have 3 HTTPS gets. And if you click on it and click on it again, then you can get to the URL.
Okay.
Or you can go to Honeycomb. We didn't set our links up for Honeycomb.
So why is it hitting the Honeycomb auth endpoint?
Shh. That's a reasonable question. But let's add the URL in here. And now you can see them all right there next to each other. This is missing.
Could you zoom in a bit? I'm struggling to see that.
Oh yeah, thank you. There we go. Let me see it now.
Yep.
There we go. So we can see that it calls the honeycomb auth endpoint. Now, I happen to know that what it's doing is checking your API key so it can warn you if it's bad. And it checks whether you have create dataset permissions. And then we're also hitting this, we'll cover datasets happy holidays endpoint. And for historical reasons, I can tell you, like historical reasons, like I wrote this code. Now, realistically, if you didn't write this code and you were like tasked with changing it or maintaining it, you would be like, why the heck is it calling the auth endpoint? And you would go look for this in the code. And you would find it, and then you would try to figure out what the heck it's doing.
Yep.
And the same with the data sets. In fact,
more specifically, why is it doing it twice?
Exactly. Why is it doing it twice? Because we could clearly take 400 milliseconds off this particular execution by just doing it once. So I mean,
there could be a reason, and we need to look at the code to see why.
All right, so let's do that. Why is it doing that? Let's follow that rabbit. /all. Yes. Okay, so we find it. We find it in one place, not two. And we see that we're doing this fetch authorization. Okay. So now I want my tracing to express why we're doing this. One thing I could do is add tracing around this particular call, but I don't know that I really need to, because I'm getting what I need out of the HTTP span.
Yep.
But I could go upward. I could be like, okay, who's calling this? This involves shift function F12. Okay, there's two places that are calling this. All right, that's interesting because we did see it called twice.
Yep. So
I want to know when it's being called from each of those. Now they both happen in this file. Okay. No, I wanted to go to it. Fine, we'll do this the old-fashioned way.
Wouldn't happen if you were using .NET.
1 out of 30. There's the other one. No, I just clicked wrong. I mean, it was doing the thing. I didn't communicate to VS Code somehow that I wanted to go to that location. I find it really confusing when it does that. Okay.
It's weird. Computers only
also,
do what you tell them to do.
Too far and in the wrong direction. Where was I? Okay, was that? My scroll setting is too sensitive, and I can't like scroll a little. I need to scroll up to the top of this. Okay. Here we are. We're in find link to dataset. So what I want to do here is add a trace around calls to this function so that I can see, okay, where in our program is it doing this? So I'll get a tracer. I would do this at the top of the file, but I'm being lazy. There it is. Tracer, what file are we in? Honey API. Enter. Okay, so now that we have a tracer, what I want to do is wrap the body of this function in. Okay, there we go. That's what I want. I want to wrap the body of this function in a span. So here's a shortcut. All right. So I'm going to call tracer.startActiveSpan. Notice the return before that. That's really important. Because if you're going to wrap the body of the function, you still want it to return whatever the heck it was going to return. So return the output of startActiveSpan, which is going to be the output of the function, the callback that you pass to it. What's this one called? Find link to data.
So you're going to do start.end and then return the undefined or whatever.
What stringer and the promise of stringer undefined apparently. So now I need to push Alt down, and then I'm going to scooch the s.end down to the end of the function. Still.
Oh, you want up about 5 lines?
There. Yeah. And then the trick is you have to move s.end above the return. That's important. There.
I would imagine it would be, yes.
Yes. So here's it returning a string. Oh, and any other returns, you need to add an s.n before them. Although, also, I can't resist.
Would you not make this an internal function and make the external function generate the trace and then run that function and then pass the whole thing back?
I mean, you can do that if you want. I just lost my
I'm
place
just
again
curious
because
as
I
to
hit
what would be
scroll
a.
and I regret it. So really, so you're talking about a wrapper.
Yeah,
Real
I would
life.
wrap the method in another method.
In real life, I would have a utility method that wraps it. Yes, I would wrap it in another method, but really it would be a generic method that would always call start active, that would call start active span and pass your function in. So yes, I would wrap it generically. Right now, I'm like demonstrating, so. But what I would want to do within the function that doesn't know about the span is I pull the span out of the air because I want to put something in here to indicate whether we got into this loop or not. So here I might say, I don't know, set attribute. Let's call it warning. How about that? I want to say no API key.
Yeah, so setting like an error message, but not really an error message, a warning message.
Yeah, like just look at this. Here I'm logging into the console. Well, I would definitely want that in my span. So whoops, but no, I'm trying to put that in const warning equals paste. And then I'll console.log the warning, and I'll also put it on the span. Whenever I see, honestly, whenever I see flow control, whenever I see an if statement, I want to put whatever's in here in the span as an attribute, because clearly it's important to the functioning of my program.
Yes, I mean this is you teaching your application to tell you where it got to.
Exactly. Tell me. So, an alternative to like saying no API key, I could choose either in addition or instead of. I could go app dot. Now I'm not going to print the API key because that's a security violation. But I could do API key length, and that's either going to be 0 or API key question mark dot length.
So I'm not sure it would be a security risk at that point.
Print the API key to my spans.
Yeah, because the people who've got access to the thing also have access to the API keys anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, in this case, you're right. It's probably not because we're using OpenTelemetry. Normally, your program doesn't do stuff with your Honeycomb API key. This program does stuff with your Honeycomb API key. In general, when you do stuff with an API key, you don't also print it to your spans. But you would print like some clue about it. Did I get one? Yeah. In this case, I've chosen length because in Honeycomb you can have either a classic API key or a more modern API key, and you can distinguish those on length. So there's some domain knowledge there in the choice of printing the length instead of the last 2 characters or something like that.
Yeah, instead of masking it and putting the yeah.
Stop with the long scroll. I regret it every time I push the middle button. Okay. This is fine. Right, so let's see the results of this. We need to see the results. Because this is the beauty of, I haven't changed anything in the outside program, but I'm learning about stuff. And every time I make a change, adding tracing, I can safely go look at the results. And then when I make a change that's like a meaningful refactor, I'll be able to see a difference in the trace. Well, right now we were just like, okay, where was this called? Aha. And we find that it's the second call the one at the end, the one we think is unnecessary, that is, there it is, that is inside find link to data set. But the first call is somewhere else. So we know that if we somehow, well, I know, if we save the results of this, we would be able to pass it into here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then skip that auth call, which apparently would be helpful. Because what we got out of fetch authorization was this auth data, and stop scroll. Just use the hold on function and use the arrow. All right. What is it doing with this auth data? Oh, here it is. It's getting the team slug and the environment slug so that it can give you a link to the data set. And
a link to the data set, right?
Yeah, if we scroll over, there's the data set portion going in.
Okay.
Right. So this doesn't change over calls to auth. So we would know that, yeah. We can find the other call and we can connect those two by passing it through. It'll be useful. So then you could ask, like, where is it printing find link to data set? And we could go up that direction, or we could go over to the other call to, is it check off? What was that call? I lost it. Fetch. Slash off fetch authorization. Yes. So if we look at this, yeah, there's two calls to that. We can find that the other one is in here. Function up just do not use that little mouse button. And oh no, that was the one we already wrapped. Where's the other one? No, over here. Now, up arrow. So here we have a call to check authorization, which is presumably going to wrap the other one. In general, when I'm trying to figure out what's going on, I can either trace upward, I can add spans going upward until I know where I am, or downward. Because we added one to main, right? But if I go look at main.
So for me, I like the auto instrumentation to go deep. So that idea of the HTTP or the file system, add those really low level spans. But then after that, I tend to go for the middle. I think is probably a better way of putting it. And just drop in some interesting spans in interesting parts of the code, because I see an interesting part of the code and I go, let's wrap that in a span and let's see where that's hit. Like which API calls hit that, so I tend to go deep and then middle.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good point. And actually the next thing I would do here is actually add the file system in. Because I can, from having done it before, that adds something really interesting. Let's end on a mystery. I'll go ahead and throw in the file system instrumentation.
You're gonna have me up all night thinking about it now, aren't you? Once you throw this mystery in and go, and same time, same place next week, and we'll get the answer.
Well, we could actually stream next week.
Like and subscribe.
I can make it a little better every time. Next time, maybe I'll make it. More likely, I'll maybe even get the good camera working, or make sure the actual mic is working, which I didn't bother with this time. It's fine. Instrumentation FS. Okay, so if we get the file system instrumentation, we'll see something. I promise. New FS instrumentation. Oh, look at that. Space. Parentheses. All right. Added it in. We're going to run it again. This time we expect more spans in our execution trace. See, this takes a lot more than, I feel like that takes a lot more than the 1 point something second that, just go to the link. That our span, see, this is 1.23 seconds. I think there's some startup. Oh, yeah, see, look at them all.
That's a lot.
Right? right? And wouldn't you love to find out what file they're reading over and over?
Yeah, what's that?
You know, if I were writing an instrumentation for the file system, I would put the goddamn file name in there.
That would be on my span name.
But it's not. It's telling you that it's reading the file system. Bunch of stuff at the beginning, bunch of stat sync stuff at the beginning. Bunch of stuff at the end, or a bunch of stuff in the middle, bunch of stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, we've reached the end of our time today.
Oh, you evil person, you evil. You're evil.
In the CNCF live stream yesterday, I did go because the trick then is to go find where it's calling read file sync and add a span immediately around it that does record the file. And anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder whether there's a thing that you can do to wrap that, duck punch it somehow.
There's only a few calls to it, so it works out okay. In general, it doesn't suck to wrap standard libraries locally so that you can add these things in a standard place either.
You're right. That would be the first thing that I would do, is that, you know, I would probably send a PR into the file system instrumentation library.
I mean, maybe there's a reason.
Put the goddamn name in the file.
It's quite likely that there's some reason that they couldn't put the name in there or chose not to put the name in there. I don't think that's sensitive data. It's but yeah, so that becomes a social project, and it is a worthy social project to improve the auto instrumentation. In parallel, in the meantime, we can do stuff locally. Yes, I'm glad you also feel like this should be a holy crusade.
It's stuff like this where I look at it and I'm like, you don't use the file system instrumentation. The people who wrote this thing do not actually use it for the thing that it's meant to be used for, do you? You wrote this thing because it needed to exist.
It did
not
need to
because
exist,
you actually
and now it needs to be better.
Yes. And I'm like, I'm thankful that you've done the thing that makes it exist, but make it work now.
Right. So that's so totally going to the source code of this and seeing how many people have upvoted the issue to add the file name instrumentation. Maybe it's in there in an unreleased version. It can happen. Anyway.
What's hilarious is when you go into the code base and there's a comment in the code base that says many people have tried to add the file name to this particular span name. It doesn't work. It fails for these reasons. Increment this counter when you've tried it again.
Shut up, GitHub. Fuck you. Get out of my face. Okay.
Yeah, I think we need a parental advisory on our stream, by the way.
Yes. We're not going to not curse. That would be honeycombing. I
was telling somebody recently, was it in the handbook? If you don't if you don't like profanity in the workplace, find another fucking workplace.
Exactly.
It's one of our core values.
16 closed pull requests have file name in them. Okay. So yeah, there's 34 open pull requests on this thing. No, stop. Come on.
I will eat my hat if somebody hasn't tried to do this.
Right.
I'll buy a hat so I can eat it.
I wouldn't want to eat your good hat. Okay, there's a bunch of stupid crap. A bunch of stuff. Feet. Maybe that means feature. Application. That's odd. Cucumber. What? Don't care. Where's this stupid file name? Anyway. Include names, attribute, and DNS lookup.
This is contrib,
we're in contrib.
So...
Okay, that's the problem. So I actually would need to narrow it to telemetry FS somehow.
Yeah, well, there's a tag for each of the instrumentations by the look of it. Nobody's done it.
Well,
people who are using this library, why? How are you doing this?
No, I really said no. Here's to wrap up as promises. Um, anyway, yeah, it's something we could totally look into because we can get to the source code. Retrieve instrumentation. Where is it? What's its name? Propagators, plugins, probably. Node. Yeah, that's there it is.
There we go.
There we go. There's a bunch of little how-to doobly bobs. And that's not super useful. But source code, do it. Instrumentation, that's useful. Okay, anyway, stop it with the rabbit hole, Jess. Stop it. Stop it. Right.
Rabbit holes are no good for streams, Jess.
But yeah, you and I tend to rabbit hole together really well.
We can burrow like the best of them.
This is mostly like adding patches and stuff. Somewhere in there, it's actually going to create spans. So.
Stop, Jess. Stop.
Okay.
So
well,
next
this
time,
was great. Next time,
I have a thing. I have a thing for next time.
Okay. Next time
I have two things. I have two things for two next ones.
Okay, next time it's your turn. This was fun.
Your turn to add the American comedic guest in the background.
All today. Okay, so yeah, I didn't watch the Twitch chat. I didn't watch anything. It's fine. We did a stream. This is better than not streaming.
Yes.
See you next time.